Welcome to another edition of the Dynamic Dilettante. Great to be with you again. We have seen Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obi-Wan Kenobi came out. Originally, it was it was delayed from originally what the producers had planned. And so then as an additional treat, it's like, okay, we'll give you the first two episodes at once. So we have now seen the first two episodes of Obi-Wan Kenobi, and you've got you got Ian McGregor back as Obi-Wan, who is great. I like Ian McGregor. I've enjoyed him things he's been in. So we want to kind of break it down and get your thoughts on it. As I've got to tell you, I heard from Tyler earlier today, who has joined us on the program before, and we've talked about it. He and I connect on a bunch of this stuff. And he was really not happy. He did not enjoy seeing the show. He didn't, the direction that they went with it. It just, and I would admit, I thought it was pretty slow moving. So we'll get into it a little bit and get our thoughts and welcome your feedback. We invite you to join, share comments with us anytime. Please do. So if you've got comments about having seen Obi-Wan, if you've seen it, or if you have no desire to see it, we would love to hear from you. So please just pop a message up and let us know your thoughts. But overall, I've got to say it was largely disappointing.
Yeah, it wasn't anything I was too excited to see. I mean, there's a lot of holes that are open and a lot of plot holes, and I think we'll probably get into talking about those.
Well, and that's, Tyler talked on that in the emails that he had sent me earlier today in regard to that. He was just vastly disappointed. He said it was a disappointment. He said there were all sorts of directions and different opportunities, a huge number of characters to revisit or explore. My thought as I'm watching it was, this is what a bunch of writers came up with. He said the writers decided that Leia at 10 years old should act and talk like adult Leia. And he went on. That's where he started. But he was vastly disappointed in it.
But that really shouldn't surprise you with the direction that they've gone with a lot of those Star Wars shows where the kid is the hero, they're making out kids roles to be a higher maturity level than they actually are.
Exactly what he's saying there. Yeah.
Bad Batch,
yep.
Rebel, or not maybe so much Rebels, but the later seasons of Clone Wars, the ones after Disney did them, you go on and on and on. They're using the Godzilla model.
The what's that?
The Godzilla model, where it's always the kid who comes up with the idea on how to beat the Godzilla monster.
Right. You're right.
I haven't seen a lot of Godzilla, but I've seen enough to know that much.
Right. And that certainly seems to be at play here. We get Leia. I have got to say, I thought the character of Leia was really charming. I thought that character was a bright spot in probably an otherwise kind of dull, at least so far, been incredibly dull. But we've seen this before, and you've mentioned it how many times? Where we get these series that are, okay, we're going to get 6 episodes generally a season. So we'll get 6 episodes this season. And the first 2, 3, 4, you really don't get much at all. And then suddenly, boom, 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 pummel you with a bunch of stuff.
Well, yeah, you got to rack it all out in 2 episodes because that's all the time they have left since it's only slotted for 6 episodes. I mean, they drag you along for 4 and then they beat you over the head with 2. I mean,
so what didn't you like about Obi-Wan?
So we started watching it on Friday when it first came out.
Yes.
And I have a bad habit. I've got a bad habit. If something's not really grabbing my attention and it's in the afternoon and I'm comfortable, I'm falling asleep midway through it. I didn't last 20 minutes through the first episode, and I was sleeping. In fact, I had to catch up on it today before we did our show this evening. And it's it's just kind of walking you along. And I mean, I didn't really, I hadn't watched Star Wars Rebels, which really sets up like the Grand Inquisitor and the Seven
Right.
Sister or the sisters and stuff like that. So I mean, today I'd watched actually a large, like first season and a half of Star Wars Rebels, where it sets all that up, and that gives you kind of that backstory on the Inquisitors and whatnot, and where that all falls into place with the timeline on Obi-Wan, since it's 10 years after Revenge of the Sith. So there's some huge plot holes in there. Yep, spoiler alerts. Here I said it. Spoiler alert. Yeah, Reva, she offs one of the Grand Inquisitors like right away.
Yeah.
Which
Second episode. Yeah.
Which doesn't mesh with what happens in Star Wars Rebels. Which, going back, all this stuff is all supposed to be canon for Star Wars. I mean, all the shows are, all the cartoons are, all that stuff is all supposed to be canon. So now we're just completely disregarding canon and opening up this huge plot hole now. And I get, you got to give some give and take with some of these newer shows and stuff like that. But come on, that's a pretty major plot point.
Yeah, unless they're going to replace the Grand Inquisitor now, but
how? Because he's
right.
supposed to still be alive
Right.
in time. I'm looking at an article right now that he's supposed to be alive yet through this timeline, and he's not. Now that Reva offed him.
Right. How much do you expect that? Because I'm a little bit more forgiving when it comes to that, because I don't know. You've got a live action show, and then you've got an animated show. And as you said, these are all supposed to be canon. I don't know about that. How much do you kind of, as far as looking to Star Wars Rebels, are you looking at that like they need to abide by the things that were set up in that show?
Unless they're going to pull a Kelvin universe, yeah. Because you set it out. I mean, if you're going to go out and say this stuff is all canon, then you can't pick and choose or multiverse some shit so that it comes back and it's all canon. Pardon my language.
Right.
I mean, you just can't do that. I think maybe I don't forgive that much, but I mean, I'm willing to overlook like maybe they didn't use the right lightsaber, or somebody's not dressed the right way, or somebody's not put in a correct costume, or somebody looks different because maybe they had to tag a different actor for it.
Right.
And I get that. That's total with show production. But as far as just completely disregarding what's been laid out before, no. I mean, it's like retconning Anakin Skywalker to be a woman. It's just, you're not going to do that.
Well, it's funny to hear you say that, because there were friends of mine, people that I knew, when Star Trek came out with Chris Pine, and they took it to the big screen. J.J. Abrams took it to the big screen, and they were incensed. This is not the Enterprise. This Enterprise looks different. It ought to look exactly like it did in the TV show. Everything ought to be exactly the same. And I thought, well, okay, you can take that point of view. I always thought that was kind of hard. I mean, when I come to shows, yeah, the reality is that you've got a lot of moving parts. Right. There's a different set of writers, and maybe they haven't seen or they don't know. I mean, I can even go back in Star Trek, and there are contradictions within the series itself, right, where you go, well, now wait a minute, how can this be true? And then this also be true. Both of them cannot be true. So I tend to be pretty forgiving when it comes to that stuff. But I understand your point. It's kind of a good one, and a lot of people have been making that. So we'll see how it plays out and where they decide to go. But I thought it was odd in the second episode you've killed the Grand Inquisitor, because you watch him in Star Wars Rebels, and I thought it was a very intriguing character.
Right. And the other thing I don't really like with it is it just doesn't feel like a normal Star Wars movie. I understand it's not a movie and that it's an episodic series, but it just, I don't know. It just
feels, but I think anything beyond episodes 4, 5, and 6 don't feel like Star Wars either. 1, 2, and 3 didn't feel like Star Wars, not to me, and then you go back to the, you know,
I
the final films, and I didn't think those felt at all like Star Wars. There were similarities, but,
I
vehicles and so on.
I just for me there's something wrong with the pacing. It just doesn't feel I mean, you watch a Star Wars movie and I mean, I even get that feel as much as we've maybe haven't liked The Mandalorian or we've loved and hated it. We've kind of got that relationship going with it, but like the Book of Boba Fett too.
Yeah.
I watch it, I know it's a Star Wars film.
Yes.
Or series. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say film, but series. I know that it's a Star Wars. I just it gives me that Star Wars vibe. I watch this, I don't get that. Even though it's all the same classic characters, we're
Right.
dealing with, Aunt Barouge and Uncle Ben, or excuse me, Uncle Owen, excuse me.
Yes. And
it's
Aunt Beru.
yeah.
Yep.
Ewan McGregor's in there. They bring back Senator Organa, and they're visiting all these places. Yes, we have spoilers in this. I said it before, but yes, major spoilers on this one.
Honestly, even having said that, I don't think you're spoiling too much.
No. And it's set on Tatooine. It's set on Tatooine and then Alderaan. I just don't get that Star Wars vibe from it. It's kind of hard to describe, but you know how you watch certain shows, like you're watching a Star Trek show. This is Star Trek. I know it's Star Trek. The stuff's familiar.
Yep.
I don't get that with this one.
And I totally understand where you're coming from because there is a different feel. And for some, it's working and they like this, Obi-Wan. There are difficulties that I have with it. We talked about having spoilers. There's a point where he's trying to save Leia. Leia's fallen. And he reaches out and the Force, it's like, he's straining, he's struggling to be able to, and he stops her from falling and very softly, lowers her down to the ground so that she doesn't get hurt. And he's got this look on his face the whole time. And I thought, now come on. This is the guy that we see in episode 4 in Star Wars A New Hope, where,
Right.
I just had a real hard time with that. I have a hard time believing, he has been sent away and Yoda has told him, I'm going to teach you how to commune with Qui-Gon. Okay. So I'll teach you how to commune. So the whole point would be he has been working on his skills, right?
Right. Theoretically, he should have been working on this for 10 years at this point.
Yeah.
Because it's set 10 years after.
Instead, it's clear that he's not used his powers. Okay, fine. Using them out in public, but not use them in private or not. That doesn't wash for me.
When you're living in a cave and you're working and you're just checking in on
okay, I'm living in
your
the cave.
ward every once in a while and going to town to get some stuff, you got time to sit and commune in your cave.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely right. So that was one of the things for me. Again, I thought Leia, the character, yes, is she a little too adult, but really for those of you who've had 10-year-old kids, do you really want a 10-year-old kid on the screen depicting what a 10-year-old kid would really be like? I mean, I'm fine with that. That didn't bother me so much.
And it provided some levity and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it just, I don't know, it didn't really strike me. And how does Leia understand things that adult Leia?
Right.
No, I mean, she's 10 years old. She doesn't know about the Force. She doesn't know who her father is. She doesn't know who, she maybe has some kind of reckoning that she's maybe not quite Senator Organa's, biological daughter. That she understands. But she's not going to understand all this Force stuff, who her father is yet, on down the line.
No, and that's a good point you're making, because there is a difference in saying that she's too mature for a 10-year-old. Okay, I don't have any problem with presenting that 10-year-old as being a little bit more mature. But you're right. She is hinting that she knows a number of things that we know that she's not going to know for years.
Right.
And that I would agree. That's a plot hole. That's a major plot hole.
And it just yeah, I mean, that's kind of my take on it. I just am not. Disney has yet to deliver again. It hasn't.
Yeah, and I will watch the rest of this. I'm not
It's
at a
only a
point
6.
where, I mean, I didn't find it so offensive. It wasn't like, I think of, um,
Some of the MCU stuff.
yeah, I won't watch any more Moon Knight. I gave that one, and I'm like, I gave that one season. I have no interest in going back. I have no interest in returning to it. And maybe it'll be the same way with Obi-Wan, that at the end of this, I'll think, well, that was a waste of time. I wish I hadn't done that.
What do you think of the Grand Inquisitors as they've shown that set of characters as they've shown them on Obi-Wan?
Actually, I was quite intrigued. I don't think to me, it's a mistake. You've got this great character and suddenly he's dead.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what the hell's the whole point of that? Why even bring the Inquisitor on then?
So you really have 3 of them on there. There's Riva,
Yes.
the Grand Inquisitor, and I forget what the other one's name is.
I will find it.
And you've got the Grand Inquisitor, who's quite meticulous.
The fifth brother.
The 5th brother.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm only a little ways into Rebels, so I haven't quite gotten the whole story with that. But you've got those 3 characters, and the Grand Inquisitor is very methodical. He's very, on how he goes about hunting the Jedi.
Yes.
You've got the 5th brother, who's pretty much in tow with the Grand Inquisitor, and Riva just freaking cowboying it up.
Right.
She's off doing her own thing, and she's just not, she doesn't quite mesh with the other 2. And then it's just like, well, I'm going to go kill this person, just to get this one Jedi. I mean, she's too headstrong. And for me, obviously she'll probably, knowing how those story arcs usually go, she'll meet her demise somehow.
Well, we'll see what happens. Not only did I have a problem with them killing the Grand Inquisitor, it was the way in which it was done.
Yeah.
She's just, they're standing there and suddenly she just activates her lightsaber right through his midsection. And it's like, what? Didn't see that coming? I mean, these people are supposed to be
Force sensitive.
with the Force. Yeah, absolutely. So he's got all these Force powers. He's the Grand Inquisitor and he can't see that coming. I'm like, come on. You are really, that was not believable. And that's one of the biggest problems I think that I probably had with it so far, is that they're just asking you to suspend your belief without doing the legwork that's required, because shows do that all the time, right, where you will suspend disbelief and you're doing it. It's like, but they have made an effort to try to set it up and you go, okay, well, I could buy that.
Right.
That's not taking place here at all. And I think it says something about Deborah Chow, the director of this.
But if I remember right, hasn't Deborah Chow directed other ones that were actually quite good?
Yeah, better. Yeah.
Because she's also involved, if I remember right, in directing The Mandalorian.
Yes.
And also with producing or writing it as well.
Yeah, I would say this starts with a bad script.
And there's some action scenes in there. I mean, okay, we're talking Star Wars. What are you going to expect? You're going to expect epic lightsaber battles.
Yep.
And you're going to expect really good space fights or dog fights in space.
Yes.
They haven't left Tatooine. Well, they've left Tatooine on, they're on a couple of different planets, but there's no big Imperial ships or anything like
Not
that
at all.
that point.
Barely any time
So it's very ground-based at this point.
Yes.
So the action scenes we have seen in there, some of the lightsaber battles, I'll give them, are good. But then there's some chase scenes in there where it's like one of the big ones where they're trying to run down and find Obi-Wan and Leia. Riva is chasing them, and it looks like the entire action sequence is just so that she can show off some parkour.
Yeah. Leaping from building to building, and who cares?
And it's not well done.
Yeah, I didn't find that very compelling.
That's
Too much is just convenient.
if there's good action scenes and stuff like that, it can usually still keep me engaged. But that's not there either. The lightsaber battles, I'll give them that. Those were pretty well done. The
Yeah.
music's there, but the rest of it kind of falls short.
And I think Ian McGregor, again, I like him, and like his um I like him as Obi-Wan, and he is telling other Jedi that, again, spoilers here, but he's telling other Jedi the war's over. You know, he's one in particular. He's telling, take your lightsaber, go out to the middle of the desert and bury it and forget about it. And just, look, we lost. And so, okay, I understand, and setting that up a little bit, there's a sense of hopelessness. Excuse me. Sense of hopelessness that he's feeling at this point, which makes sense that he would be.
Right.
But again, you know, Yoda sent him out there specifically to protect Luke and to commune with Qui-Gon.
And for those who haven't watched it at this point, the reason Obi-Wan gets looped back into engaging again with his force powers and whatnot is that they basically set it up that Princess Leia was kidnapped.
Yes.
And then Senator Organa is reaching out to him as though you are the only one who can help me, which is all a setup, so that the Inquisitors can.
Not by Organa, but
no.
It's
a setup
by the rest,
by the Inquisitors to pull him out of hiding because he's like the big catch they've been hunting. So that's what pulls him out.
Well, this one has, yeah.
Yeah.
The others have said no, he's dead. He's been dead a number of years. They've stopped looking for Obi-Wan, but for whatever reason, she's got it in her head that he's still alive. So
leads to the dark side.
And I really didn't care for that. Moses Ingram plays Reva, and I didn't really care for the character.
No.
Nor was I intrigued. I mean, Darth Vader, I cared about the character. You were, from the minute that Vader appeared on screen in episode 4, you know, he commanded I don't think this character of Reva, I'm like, honestly, who cares? I just haven't been made to feel that way about this character. Why we should care about what it is that she's after or doing, or that we should fear her for whatever reason. Maybe that's why they had her kill the Grand Inquisitor, but I just thought, give me a break. That's too easily done.
You just needed to have a female.
And I'm all about that. I mean, I'm all about female parts and female leads, but it's still, you don't sacrifice good script writing,
no,
you know, to do those things. And it seems like they just threw all that right out the window.
It really feels like that role is just like a square peg forced in a round hole. It just doesn't seem to fit.
I would agree.
But, that kind of goes into what else we were going to talk about tonight. When you have franchises that are out there and they've been long-standing, well-established franchises that have huge fan base, and there are writers and producers and directors and stuff like that who are not respecting that lore or mythos or whatever you want to call it that goes into that series, and you just kind of, I'm going to change it to change it. And it just doesn't mesh. And they're just completely changing it to change it. And I don't know. It really has gotten bad in the last few years. And it leaves a lot of series falling flat.
Well, and I have no problem with change it, retelling it, you're going to take an old story or an old series or something, and you want to retell it. As we talked about recently with Batman.
Right.
The Batman, there's an entirely different take on the Batman that we've not seen before. It's very, very much a different take. But the difference here is that it's true to the Batman, and it's true to, the core of that character.
Right.
And so much of what we see now is, I agree with you. It's not.
It's well, I mean, Batman's a perfect example. That is a series and that is a franchise that has been recast and redone and
Yep.
retold how many times?
Well,
Throughout the comic
yeah,
books,
man.
throughout on
Right.
screen, throughout, TV shows, whatever. Well, I guess
Yeah.
66 it was campy, but it's still it respected it. And the people who went in and produced those films and whatever, they understood what Batman was, and if they didn't, they talked to people who really did, and that came through that. So I'm not a comic book buff like you are. I mean, most of the time that I have exposure to these types, to this, like characters and stuff like that, is through TV, is through movies, and etc. I should be able to sit down, watch something, have an appreciation for it, not have to watch. And that's another thing we talk about, but watch 800 hours of backstory to figure out who's on screen and what's going on.
Right.
And then I don't know. I think if a script's well written, I should just be able to sit down and I can appreciate the movie for what it is.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I agree with you that you shouldn't. And I wondered that, we talked about recently Doctor Strange and the multiverse of madness, because you had watched WandaVision and I didn't. And when you watched the multiverse of madness, there were things that you picked up from WandaVision that they were lost on me, and I missed them. It doesn't mean I enjoyed the movie any less because of that.
Right.
So people are asking, well, do you have to watch all of these, in order to truly understand what's going on? In fact, I'd run across a piece where they were asking this question.
I got it up on the screen right now.
There you go. How much homework is required to watch Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness? I would say none. Now, if you do some homework, are you going to get more out of the film? Yeah, probably. If you have, it's the same thing if you go to any movie where it's a sequel of a movie. If you saw the original, you're probably ahead of where you will be when you go to see the sequel. But if you've not seen the original, you're not out anything. So I don't know that you need to see all of these pieces to be able to understand what's going on.
This article points out that if the average viewer wanted to watch and get every reference in Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness, so Doctor Strange 2, they would be watching just under 17 hours of footage. And that's just to get possibly all the references in the movie. But it's and I can get that they're trying to link all those side spin-off type series into the main movies that MCU's doing or Disney's doing with the MCU.
Right.
But that is just ridiculous. I mean, I can sit down and I can watch the Avengers series, not watching any of the side series, and those movies I'm talking the phase 1, 2, sort of 3, I can watch those and I know, okay, this is Captain America, this is Iron Man, this is Thor, what their backstory is, who their main villains are, etc. And then when they come to an event together as Avengers, I know where everybody kind of fits in. Whereas I don't have to watch, Falcon and Winter Soldier. I don't have to watch Hawkeye's spinoff. I don't have to watch WandaVision. I don't have to watch Loki. I don't have to watch, there's a couple other ones. But that's ridiculous. I mean, I like to binge watch, but that's getting to be a little ridiculous to have to watch all those series just to get an idea of what's going on.
Well, then of course you don't. I mean, I certainly don't feel like I have to.
Right.
Because you asked me about that before we went to see Multiverse of Madness. Well, do you want to watch WandaVision? I'm like, no, I don't want to watch WandaVision. I'm not going to. I mean, I want to go see this movie and enjoy it for what it is. And if there are things that I miss, then I miss. And I don't care. But there was so much going on in that movie that even if you miss stuff, the rest of what was going on, it was just, I thought at times it was pretty overwhelming.
And the other one is I like Spider-Man. We'll take Spider-Man, the last three, Andrew Garfield? No. Tom Holland?
Yes, Tom Holland.
That's it.
Yep.
So if I take those last 3 Tom Holland movies that Sony mainly produced, I can sit and watch those. I don't have to watch all the other ones. Those 3 run as a set. And I didn't watch the second one, but I still was able to watch the third one. I still have yet to watch the second one. But I was able to watch that third one, No Way Home, I believe it's called.
Yes.
And still have great appreciation for what's going on. There was maybe just a couple minutes in the beginning when they were referencing Dr. Mysterio.
Yeah,
Mysterio, that I'm just like, I'm not quite sure what's going on, but a quick Google search and I was right up to speed.
I don't, agreed. I don't, nor did you have to go watch the original Tobey Maguire movies. You didn't have to go watch all 3 of those. You didn't have to go watch the 2 Spider-Man movies that Andrew Garfield made before you went to see Spider-Man No Way Home. You could piece it together. You got it. You understood what was going on. If you had seen those movies, as I did,
Right.
you were ahead of the game. You know, you had a good understanding of who these characters were. But I agree. It wasn't required. It wasn't a necessity.
No, and I think, and that was something that No Way Home delivered on. If you had watched those, the Tobey Maguire series, the Andrew Garfield series, and the Tom Holland series, Spider-Man, you had a really good appreciation going into that very last one because it brings up the villains from all those other ones and with the original actors. So, I mean, yeah, like we talked about it when we did the review on that movie. We heard people sitting and cheering when they saw, Willem Dafoe and stuff on screen as the original Green Goblin.
Which was cool. When was the last time you heard people cheering in a movie theater? You just don't hear that much anymore.
We did during Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, and those characters were killed off in 5 seconds when they introduced the Illuminati.
Yeah. Right.
And, and that's it's giving fans something that they like and they enjoy. And then the flip side of it is you get dumpster fires like Halo. Yep, I'm going to go back to it. But it's...
That's all right. Hold the grudge.
Oh, I'm going to hold a grudge, and most people are going to think it's
so
just...
what you're whinging about?
I'm not whinging.
Your lips are moving, and you're complaining about something. That's whinging. This one's been killed 6 times. You don't hear him bitching about it.
Sorry, I've been recently watching...
Game
of Thrones again. But it feels like I whine when I say this, but the thing that really gets me with that series is it's just like a bad Star Trek. You know a bad Star Trek when you see a bad Star Trek. I loved that series. It's got Halo's got a really good story. It's a very compelling story, and it allows you to be very immersed in those games. But the people who produced it and wrote it specifically said, well, this isn't going to be, your average series. Whereas if you go back and watch like The Fall of Reach and stuff like that 343 did, that's created by the same studio that made the game. So everything's very true to form. Everything feels right. You watch this one, I mean, they show all the trailers. Master Chief has his helmet on and everybody's like, yeah, great. Well, 80% of the entire show, he doesn't have his helmet on. That's just not true to form. And they've come out time and time again saying, hey, we didn't write it to be, in line strictly with the games or the storytelling in those games or the books, because there's a considerable number of books out there too for that series. And it's just crap. It's just like,
well, that's trash. And I'll give you an example. One of the things when they were making Star Trek 2, talking about Star Trek 2, The Wrath of Khan, they knew Star Trek the Motion Picture had been really good at the box office because people wanted to see Star Trek, but they knew the movie wasn't good. The effects were great. There were things in there. So when they decided to make Star Trek 2, they went back through and they watched the original series and they jotted down things that they wanted to do. Boom, boom, boom. And they hit them, they made a list of things. We want to do this. And then, you had the director and coming together with the producer, Harv Bennett, along with Nicholas Meyer, and bringing their list together and compiling the list and say, these are the things that we want out of a Star Trek. And these are things we've seen based on the original series and all of that, you know. So they went to the source material, and that's why Wrath of Khan is so loved by so many fans. You know, they did not do that with Halo, and it shows big time.
And I mean, they just they wrote it to. The thing is to me, they sold it as this is Halo. I mean, fans have been wanting for 20 plus years to see a show or a major motion picture or something along those lines.
Yeah.
And so there's that fan base that's there already for that franchise. And then they just took a big old crap on them. And I
don't get that. Then why not just make your own series?
Right. And call it like Spartan's Revenge or something.
Exactly.
Take some, podunk way off in the middle, planet or colony, and then make your whatever there. And the thing is, people have we haven't talked about it a whole lot coming up, but this Rings of Power that Amazon is set to release, I think it's in like September or something like that. It's later on this fall. I've read a number. I mean, I've read the entire Lord of the Rings series. I'm a huge fan of that. I'm re-listening to them all again on audiobook right now. In fact, just the buzz around it has actually caused me to go back and re-listen to the Silmarillion, which is, it's like the whole mythos and how everything got created in that whole universe. But when you take Rings of Power is focused on 150 pages in the appendices of Return of the King.
Right.
And it's slotted, if I remember right, for 3 seasons. Don't quote me on that, but I think it's contracted for 3 seasons. So how are you going to take 150 pages, which spans about, don't quote me again, I think it's about 1,000 years of history, a very rich history, and spread it out like that? And you're already seeing the producers and stuff like that have completely just been like, hey, J.R.R. Tolkien fans, you can go pound sand because we're going to go do what we're going to go do because we feel we can do it better, or we need to improve it because it needs to be more representative of what's currently hot. How do I want to say it? The current hot topics and everything, and we need to make it look more like it should for today.
Which is nonsense.
Right. Why? Because it's a fantasy. It's J.R.R. Tolkien's works are very, very thorough. He has very clear descriptions of what characters look like. He has very clear descriptions of what they are, what they wear, how they appear, traits, everything. That's one of the things that's why it's so immersive. And then these new people who are producing it just basically went, there you go.
We see that happening in so much of the media that's produced anymore, that they want to throw the foundations of what I think that's going on right now as we were talking about Obi-wan. I think they're taking parts of that and just throwing it right out the window, and they're going to go in a different direction. And I just don't understand that.
Right.
I'm not the Lord of the Rings fan that you are, but even I know enough to know is particularly egregious what they're doing and why fans are reacting in the way that they are.
Yeah. Steve Kennis says it best here from YouTube. Let's make crap, slap some famous names on it, and we'll get everyone in the door at one time.
Right.
And that's what it is. I think they're taking that because, and this has been on some other discussions and forums and stuff I've read and followed up with, they're taking those existing franchises and series and whatever, and they're just bastardizing them is what they're doing. They're just, I can do it better and I can make it for today, and it's not. They're not respecting what's there, and it really.
You want to do a show on today, then do a show on today.
Make something original.
Right.
But that's the thing is you're not going to get that built-in fan base that's already there and already. It's like Star Trek Discovery. There's been a number of Star Trek shows that you like and you don't like.
Yes.
Star Trek Discovery for you, I know, is one you absolutely despise.
I don't care for it. Strange New Worlds has gotten better and better.
Right. I mean, we just watched the last one this week. In fact, I think we watched the 2 episodes of Obi-Wan, and then we're like, all right, let's watch Star Trek so we can get that bad taste out of our mouth.
And isn't that a turn of events for you Star Trek fans? That now we're at a point where Strange New Worlds is actually better than Obi-Wan. There was a day I would not have expected that. But it is. It's much better. And there's a concentration on storytelling and characters, and yeah, you're just not seeing that.
And I'm not the huge Star Trekkie that you are, or Trekkie or Trekker or whatever the appropriate terminology is for that. But when Star Trek Next Generation got good, it was after I watch documentaries on this, and you start to see it when you watch them back to back to back, because I binge watch everything. But seasons 2 and 3, and when Gene Roddenberry started stepping off a little bit, and they started letting the characters drive the narrative for the story,
yes,
Star Trek Next Gen got really, really good. Same thing happens with Strange New Worlds. Is the characters for the first 4 episodes that we've watched, it's almost like they focus on one specific character for that show, and the plot is kind of sort of centered around them, but not. It's not so centered around them where you don't see the other cast members,
right,
or crew members, I guess. And it really they drive the story, and that works well, and especially with Star Trek, that works so good.
And I think it was a good call to return to an episodic series again, rather than we're going to have one episode lead into another episode and so on. But even like what we've seen with Moon Knight and, some of this stuff, Obi-Wan, where it's you got to watch this to lead into the next. Right. Whereas Star Trek, Strange New Worlds, you really don't. I mean, you'll benefit if you do. You'll understand the characters better, but each episode stands by itself.
There is one big story arc, but I mean, It's not like I can't sit and watch each individual one and not know what's going on.
Right.
I can still have that appreciation.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so I don't know, I guess. And I think MCU probably has to be the absolute worst franchise, though, for taking source material that's been around for years and just changing it to change it. Why? Because we can. And they don't do it well. And I like to give everything a chance, but like Hawkeye, oh my gosh. If you want to sit and watch a terrible series, watch Hawkeye.
Did you watch that?
I did. And to me, I'm getting that.
I think I wasn't even aware that you would watch that.
Yeah, I didn't even want to bring that up to you because it wasn't even worth wasting your time.
It was that bad?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
So basically, I mean, you got, shoot, I can't. What's his name?
Keep going. I'll look it up.
Kyle. It's been so long. I haven't watched a lot of MCU stuff lately. Minus Doctor Strange stuff. But he's trying to get out of the business. He's trying to retire.
It's Clint Barton is the name of the character.
Thank you. Yeah. So Clint Barton's trying to get out of the business, but Blast from His Past is coming up and is pulling him back into the stuff. Of course, this young new protege, this young new protege is there to take up the mantle. Want to take a guess on the demographics?
I think I've got it. We're talking about a younger female.
Younger female, you got it. Who's just top archer, all this business.
Yep.
And, it shows him as weak and degraded and everything like that. To me, it kind of rings so...
Kind of like they're getting ready to do right now with Thor. Kind of the same thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I kind of got that feeling even when we were watching Obi-Wan.
Did you?
Yes. Yes. Where it's just, you're taking that person and he's just beat down midlife crisis and, we're going to take this young female and they're going to pick up the mantle and everything's going to be awesome again. Moon Knight, same way. Scarlet Scarab's not supposed to be in there. That's actually a villain. It's a male.
Right.
But let's recast it. Make him a hero. This is actually supposed to be a villain, is my understanding. And there you go. So, yes, MCU. Not my term, but very appropriate.
Yeah. I have not been a lot of these things, there have been a few things that I've really, really enjoyed and really loved. we talked about Spider-Man No Way Home be a great example. I love that. I loved the Batman. I thought that was great. There were things about it that I didn't like, and I've really gotten to a point, especially considering how much they're trying to inject kind of woke politics and so on into movies today. It's hard not to find some of that. So there's a certain amount that I'm willing to just grit my teeth and I'll get past it for a few moments or whatever. But more and more, so much of this stuff is just trash. It's garbage.
Steve's saying trying to replace male characters with women. Why not just make female characters and give them their own show rather than trying to gender swap known hero?
Yeah.
And I think it goes back, my opinion, and again, my opinion, I'm not buff. This is just my opinion. Take it for what it's worth. Some person on the internet. They're doing it because, again, there's that known fan base.
Right.
I can take something that's already there, squeeze a little bit more out of it, and get some more money out of it.
So in other words, they don't want to do the work that it would take to create that character,
right,
and that universe. They could, because I would see there are a lot of these characters that I'd say, I mean, I have no problem with strong females or any of that business. Strong female characters, absolutely. Heroic female characters, no problem at all. Create those characters rather than, ripping apart heroes like Thor or anybody else, and then basically building up these female characters on the shoulders of the male characters that came before them. Doctor Who even is an example of that.
Right. I can't think of the quote. I saw it this week when I was just kind of looking for stuff, to get ready for this week.
Yeah.
Stan Lee has got a quote, and it's like, why do I need to take a character and change it to, a woman, some minority, something else, when I can just take that same character and make someone new who can stand on their own? It's not
right.
It's like you're not going to make the Black Panther somebody from Switzerland. It's a quote. I'm going to have to find it, and I'll post it on our Twitter page when I find it. But I saw it, and I mean, it hits. It's the exact thing. I mean, that was Stan Lee, who's the father of Marvel.
Yeah, well, absolutely, and that's what they were doing, and they were creating. Even in the Fantastic Four, you had Sue Storm that was there. There was a strong female character who was there, and you go all the way through when it came to having strong characters that were black. Stan Lee was, and the folks at Marvel, inspired by Stan Lee, were among the first that were doing that kind of thing. Daredevil was blind,
Yes, he's still blind.
Those kinds of things. It was Stan Lee that was really leading the way,
right,
to do that kind of stuff. You don't see that today. Now we want to take that character that Stan Lee has created, and we want to change that in the way that fits our politics today. That's what really bothers me.
Because Stan Lee didn't know what he was talking about. And huge sense of sarcasm.
No,
right?
Understood.
With that statement.
Clearly he did. Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, my sarcastic tone doesn't always come across. So wink, wink, that's sarcasm. But yeah, I don't know. And like I said, Sue Storm, that's perfect character. She never had to be like some damsel in distress kind of thing. She could hold her own. She could do her own thing.
Yep.
Storm from the X-Men.
Exactly. Yeah.
Trying to think of who the other character was from the X-Men.
I don't know the Marvel characters as well as I should.
Who was the most powerful X-Men? She changed her name. Phoenix.
Yes.
She went through a couple of iterations.
Yeah.
But in the little bit of X-Men comics I read, that was one I read. But she could just obliterate anybody else. Now she had some control issues, but she eventually did control it.
Yeah.
So
great examples, and you could go on.
Flip over to DC, Wonder Woman. She can hold her own against Superman just about.
Absolutely.
Phoenix, Dark Phoenix. Thank you, Steve. But yeah, so you only see it more and more. And
I would agree. Yeah, and that's so frustrating. Just create new characters that you want to, you want them to, whatever you want them to embody, whatever you want them to be. Why must it come at the emasculation of these male characters to do it? That's what I find so troubling for me.
Loki, in the
Yeah.
multiverse. That one's a really bad one.
Yeah. She was we had the female Loki who was the strong, and he was groveling every time he had an opportunity.
Right. Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm trying to find that Stanley quote. I'm going to have to find it later. I just can't find it right off the top of my head, but it's a great quote. And you just read it, you're like, that's it.
You're right. Yeah, absolutely.
But, well, I think we've beat that one to death for tonight.
We were talking about Star Trek Strange New Worlds. What are your thoughts on? Because I've been really impressed with it. I think it's good. And I could get into more detail, but what are your thoughts on the new Star Trek?
Like it. And again, I probably in the last year, I've really started watching a lot more Star Trek. I think I've been through Next Gen. I've been through as much as I could tolerate for Enterprise. Been through just about all of Deep Space Nine, Voyager. It's getting kind of hard to continue to watch that.
Don't. Seriously.
Rated the movies. Have not touched Picard. Have not touched Discovery, which you've told me I'm okay about.
Yeah, I'm still curious about Picard, the third season, because they're bringing back all the cast from Star Trek: The Next Generation. Yep. I'm curious about that, but I've got to tell you, I've just been beaten to death so many times, that you think, oh, this will be great. Then you go watch it and you go, that wasn't great. That was nothing but a disappointment. And I hope these people are smart enough to know, really, seriously, do you want to come back? Is that the taste that you want to leave in the mouths of longtime Next Generation fans? I really hope they don't do that. We'll see. But
Steve says best Roddenberry created series is Andromeda. I like it. To me, the thing is Anson Mount, where I first got exposed to him, was in the series Hell on Wheels that AMC did a number of years ago. Great series. We also see, speaking of which, it's his birthday today. What's his name?
You mentioned it to me earlier. I forget.
Yeah, and I'll scroll through Twitter for 5 seconds and I'll find it. Good gravy. What's his name? That's going to bother me now. Oh, heck, what's his name?
Yes, I forgot what I was looking up. What was it that we had?
He plays ensign or petty officer, not petty officer. Sorry, ensign transporter guy, engineering.
Pardon me?
He plays the engineering character on Deep Space Nine, Next Gen. Brian O'Connell.
No, his character's name was Conan O'Brien.
Oh, not Conan O'Brien.
On Next Gen.
Yeah,
excuse me, no.
Conan O'Brien.
I know who Conan O'Brien is. That's yes. No.
No, it's O'Brien. He plays O'Brien.
Yeah,
it's his birthday today.
On Next Gen.
Oh
boy, that was a big build-up for not
nothing.
Much of a payoff.
Exactly. Welcome to what you get weekly here at the Dynamic Dilettante.
We were talking about Strange New World, and what you enjoyed about it.
Well, because his character and Anson Mount are on Hell on Wheels. That's I think where that tangent was going. So to put this train wreck back on the tracks, I like Anson Mount, and then him in Strange New Worlds is really good. I think he makes a great captain character.
I do too.
Now, I didn't watch enough. I haven't watched enough original series to know like what Captain Pike might have been, even though I think he's only in 3 episodes.
Captain Pike, yeah, it was actually it was 1 episode. It was the original pilot.
Yeah.
And then they cut it up in a 2-part episode with Kirk and Spock.
Right.
The rest.
So he's great. I mean, the other choices of characters, I'm still a little Lieutenant's can't even sing, or as we affectionately like to call her here, Spawn of Khan. She's even the last episode, I kind of turned around a little bit on her.
Yes, as I did too. Haven't gotten to a point yet where I like the character, but leaning that way. And this is where I think if you give these shows a little bit of, excuse me, you give these shows a little bit of time, a lot of times then you start to see that growth, and the people who are writing and, producing, directing the show, they go, okay, this is working, so on. So I think you have to give shows, at least I do, a little bit of time to kind of find their way.
Like
You
wine, you
mentioned
gotta.
Star Trek Next Generation is a great example because the first couple of seasons are not very good. It wasn't until the show got later on, after Roddenberry became actually quite ill and
Right.
was nearing death and kind of was losing control of Star Trek, is when it started to actually, that series began to really improve and get good, came
Right.
into its own. So I think you have to have some degree of patience with some of these shows.
It's kind of like wine. You got to let it breathe a little bit before you actually consume it.
And I see that happening on Strange New Worlds and where they're going. So I'm excited about it.
It's actually got a really high rating on IMDb. I mean, it's an 8 actually on IMDb.
Which is incredibly good. And I have thought every episode that I have seen has gotten better than the previous episode that I saw.
So far, the episode I like the least has to be the first one.
Agreed.
But yes, they've gotten progressively better. I really, as far as characters that I'm really enjoying on there, I'm really enjoying the Doctor, like you have said. Obviously,
Yep.
I'm enjoying
He's
Captain
great.
Pike.
Yep.
So how about you?
I think it's interesting what they're doing with Christine Chapel. I think that character is
Christine
funny.
Chapel.
Yeah.
Yep. Nurse Chapel.
Also and I don't have the name. I didn't look it up. The engineer.
Hammer.
Yeah. The relationship that's being forged between him and
Uhura.
is pretty cool.
Right.
Good.
At this point, she's a cadet.
Yeah. But she's a great character, strong character, likable character. That's the thing about with the exception, I think, of the Khan character, that the rest of these characters are all pretty likable.
Right.
The one issue I have is, okay, it's early Earth spaceship, and that thing is more luxurious than I mean, they have got room to spare. They've got, the bridge is huge. You see the hallways of this thing, even in the motion pictures that they made of Star Trek, like, 2, 3,
right,
all of those. The Enterprise corridors are cramped. They wanted to give you the idea this is a spaceship. This is you, and it's utilitarian in nature. So, space is at a premium and so on. And here they just got these luxurious hallways, and it's like, oh, please.
It's more open than the Love Boat,
Yeah.
aka the Enterprise D.
So, but those are.
I love the look of it, though. I mean, the look and the aesthetic of that Enterprise is great. It's striking and it fits.
I totally agree. That's where honestly, I have known people, and is one of the reasons that they hated the Kelvin universe, the J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies, is because that's not the Enterprise. They wanted to see the Enterprise. They wanted to see the TV bridge. They wanted to see that bridge. That's the Enterprise. Anything less than that is, and I understand, okay,
but if you got
this ship is much, much different. It's much larger. And I get that. I don't get so shook up about that, but some people do.
But if you're going to get box office type budget, you're going to get box office bridge. It's going to look good. It's going to have this polish on it, because they started making the films almost 15, 20 years after the original series was off the air.
A little less than that, but yeah.
Yeah, where most of that stuff had been in the scrap heap at that point.
Fans just went crazy, and the show was doing so well in syndication that
right.
There were a lot of things that worked in Star Trek's favor.
But yeah, that's of all the stuff that's come out in the last 6 months, that has been the one saving grace. At least, like, yes, they are still producing good stuff.
Yeah, I have really enjoyed it. And it's funny because, there was a time, Star Trek better than Star Wars. Now they are different. Star Trek is science fiction, whereas Star Wars is more science fantasy. So those are very different kind of things. Science fiction is generally it's a little more heady than where science fantasy is more into the swashbuckling and all of that kind of stuff, and the aliens and all that.
How long before Star Wars starts dipping its toe in time travel and whatnot to try and retcon some of this crap we've been seeing?
Yeah, that's one thing that Star Wars has never gotten into.
Thankfully.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I'll wait and see. We'll see what they do with Obi-Wan. Steve, I'd be interested in your thoughts because I know, Steve, you're quite a Star Wars fan. Have you had if Steve has had an opportunity to see it?
Steve commented a little earlier, said he watched the first episode of Obi-Wan. He said he was running a little late tonight. Didn't need to see any more.
Wow.
Can't pop that
Yeah.
chat.
Yeah, sometimes some of these shows leave such a bad taste in your mouth that you really just don't want to come back. That's where I'm at with Moon Knight. I'm like, yep, done. I don't care what they do moving forward, done.
Steve said Obi-Wan is trash. No need to see more.
Steve calls it just the way he sees it.
Nothing wrong with that. No need to beat around the bush if you already know what you need.
Agreed.
What do you got on a rundown this week?
All right, let's hit the rundown. Top Gun Maverick, of course, came out in theaters this week. Broke the Memorial Day box office records with $151 million. We've not seen it yet. We're hoping to see it before next week's show. So hopefully later this week we'll be able to see it. But message us if you've seen it. Share your thoughts with us in a quick message. Also, speaking of Star Wars, there's a ton of Star Wars news. Star Wars Tales of the Jedi has been announced for Disney Plus. This is an animated show. Tales of the Jedi. Liam Neeson will return as the voice of Qui-Gon Jinn. We'll learn the origins also in this show of Ahsoka and Count Dooku. That'll be coming out this fall. Also, the first trailer is out for Star Wars Andor. And this is going to be a prequel to Rogue One. Did you catch that? Rogue One, remember, took place right before Star Wars Episode 4?
Yep.
So this Star Wars Andor is a prequel to Rogue One.
Okay, whinging is the theme of the evening. I'm sorry. I'm gonna go here. Okay. So the trailer for that is actually out, and if I remember right, that's releasing in June, correct? June 21st or something like that.
What I read was what I was seeing was later, probably like September, October.
Okay. Maybe. Oh no, I'm confusing that. I'm sorry. Westworld's coming out in a June.
Yeah.
But you go and watch the trailer for Andor, and it's on Disney Plus right now, but you can find it on YouTube, wherever. Apparently now, instead of props or blasters, you just give the cast members
What?
Go back and watch it.
Okay.
Because what you can kind of garner from the trailer is that it's the buildup of the rebel forces aren't exactly organized yet.
Right.
So, anytime the Empire comes around, people are hiding their stash of weapons and whatever.
Gotcha.
That's what you see in the trailer. Yeah, if you look close at it, they're all like AK-47s and stuff.
So this is supposed to, and what Star Wars Andor is supposed to do is it's the beginning of the rebellion. We will see how the rebellion forms against the Empire. Also, Harrison Ford is going to return as Indiana Jones again. That's right. Indiana Jones 5. The first photo was released this week. You may have seen that. And then also Warner Brothers is reportedly reevaluating J.J. Abrams' deal with the network. They're not too happy with J.J. Abrams. But, however, there is news that possibly Henry Cavill could be back again as Superman. They are working on a program right now. So that, and again, whether or not they wind up bringing Cavill back to the DC properties, is questionable at this point. But Warner Brothers Discovery is not too happy with J.J. Abrams and a lot of what he's been doing. And then finally, we saw a headline this week at Game Rant, and we talked about this earlier, is having to watch the Disney Plus MCU shows too much homework. It was the headline of the piece, and this is what we were talking about. How much homework is required to go watch some of these, like Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness would be an example. Do you need to go watch WandaVision? I don't think you do, but that's me.
It's only 17 hours. Come on, Greg.
I'm kind of a believer. If those shows can't stand on their own, then
also
something's wrong.
Also, starting this week, I saw that. What is that series on Amazon Prime? The Boys season 3 is releasing on Friday, which is
I've
quite
been a
good.
fan of that.
It's a parody of all the superhero stuff, and it's very forewarning.
It's very violent.
It's very violent and very gory, so do not watch it with your kids. But
no, it's not a show for kids.
No, but it is funny. It's got a very, very dark sense of humor. The guy who plays Dr. McCoy in the new...
Yeah, and you know how I am with names.
Right, he's in that. There's a number of people.
And has more powers now.
Right.
Yeah, temporarily granted with some pretty significant powers.
And then I just saw it as we were, right before we got going here, while I was flipping through Twitter, they just released, or saw some tweets that they started writing season 4 of Mandalorian.
Okay.
Carl Urban, thank you, Steve.
Yes.
And then what else did I see?
Steve has a memory.
Steve does have a memory. Steve is very good at it.
I have none.
And then Westworld's coming out at the end of this month or next month. So
you enjoyed that show.
I really like that show. That is a very good show.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting show. It's very well written. But I know between that and I'm waiting to see House of Dragons release later this summer.
Yeah, I'm intrigued. And one of the actors in that played
Matt Smith.
Yeah, Matt Smith, who was one of the lead characters in that new Game of Thrones
One of the
series.
Targaryens.
Yeah.
So yes,
so that'll be interesting.
Gives me another excuse to rewatch Game of Thrones again.
She's rewatching it even as we speak.
And then one last bit of business and housekeeping here is we have to wish somebody a happy birthday here too. It is the Dynamic Director's birthday today as
well. Oh, that's right. There he is.
There he is.
Rocco's. How old is Rocco today?
He'll be 9.
Okay.
He's 9 today. So he is right there. He's still down at the side of my desk.
And how did you treat Rocco today? Because you kind of spoil him on his birthday.
Normally he gets a cheeseburger, but we kind of stayed home today with the bad weather, so he got breakfast. But he thinks every day is his birthday.
Hey, let's talk about our time change coming up next week. Next week too.
Starting next week, we are gonna be too many buttons here. We're gonna try going at 6:30.
Sure, will make life easier for me.
Yep. On Mondays.
Thank you.
We've kind of been playing around with times a little bit over the last month just because our schedules have changed, especially with summer and other events going on. So
initially we started on a Monday, and then my schedule was such it became really, really difficult, and that's not the case anymore. So we jumped back to Monday, and now we'll just jump just a little bit earlier. So we'll start at 6:30.
6:30 Central on Mondays.
Hope you'll join us. We love hearing from you. If you enjoyed our show tonight, please give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, give it a thumbs down. share it, is very much appreciated. If you've got friends that are like-minded, please, by all means, recommend it to them. And we appreciate your thoughts, your emails, and your messages that you're leaving during the show. It's great fun interacting with you and sharing all these things that we're watching together. So thank you so much for being here.
Well, it's that time of the night.
The Cave of Wonders.
Huh? Cave of Wonders?
Got to show what you pulled off the wall.
These are buttons that I've collected over the years. And many of these, if you start in the upper left over here, you can see the, hey, kids, Batman, 14 buttons. And around the edges of that are the 14 buttons. These were dispensed out of gumball machines, like gumball machines. You know, you'd put a dime in and turn the thing, and these buttons would come out. So I've got all those there. There's a variety of different buttons that you can see there. Some of them were based on Batman clubs back in the 60s, brought about by the TV show. Because you can see in the lower left one, it's the Batman Club, was brought to you by a radio station where they would promote Batman on TV. Also, over in the there's another one near the upper right where you see Ron Riley's Batman Club, and then there's an official Batman Club. Those you could buy actually out of vending machines, so you didn't have to join any television club. The big one in the upper right hand is the Deputy Crime Fighter, Batman and Robin. I actually still have the packaging that one came in as well. Not only the button, but I have the original packaging and the card that came with. And then the Batman and Robin Society, those buttons are fairly easy to find. Charter member of the Batman and Robin Society. And then in the lower right-hand corner, the Batman Club, the official Batman Club, and the pin that came along with it. And if you turn the card over, you sign it on the backside. Mine actually is unsigned, so which is rare because a lot of kids scrawled their initials into the card. That one is not. So those are some of the Batman-related buttons that I've collected. I've got quite a number more, but those are closest to the 1966 series.
Awesome. So, what are you looking forward to watching this week, Greg?
Strange New Worlds, honestly. And I think we're going to see Top Gun, are we not?
That's the plan.
Because the reviews of that have been phenomenally good.
Yep.
So I'm excited about it.
And yeah, that's probably the one thing I think. And then Bad Boys is coming out later this week, and that's I think everything on the docket for this week because there's no new movies coming out that I'm aware of.
If there's anything else that you're watching or that you've liked or you think that we should watch, share it in the comments or drop us an email as well, and we appreciate it.
Steve's rewatching Farscape.
Is he?
I'm doing Star Wars Rebels. I just started with that today, but I think I'm almost halfway through it.
Farscape is pretty highly thought of by a number of fans, and that's one of the things I've wanted to go back and watch as well.
I can't remember what service it's on right now.
I have to search around. I've canceled so many of my services.
Yeah, we've cleaned house.
That's right. Well, thank you so much for letting us join you. We hope you'll be back again next time. I can't say same time because it'll be earlier next week. So almost the same time, same bat channel. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.